Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and today I'm bringing you my top 10 Halloween board games. So these are games that are either spooky or Halloween themed, things that are great to play during the Halloween season. So I wanted to put this video out a little bit earlier in the month, that way you may have some time to get and order these games and get them played during this holiday season. So I hope that you have a great time with these games, but before we do start, I want to mention one honorable mention that more falls in the line of Day of the Dead, and this is going to be Skull. So Skull is a fantastic game featuring lots of wonderful artwork depicting these different skulls and flowers from different areas around the world, and I think that this is just a fantastic game. It's a bluffing game where you're going to be trying to make challenges to try to reveal as many flowers as you can, but if you hit a skull, it is game over for you. So you're doing your best to kind of read the other players. It's just a great party game, and I think it's so wonderful. Fantastic bluffing. Gives me that feeling of Liar's Dice, but in a small package. Wonderful. Recommend this one. So my Dia de los Muertos pick is going to be Skull for my honorable mention. So fantastic game. Now with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into number 10, and this is going to be the game Arkham Horror, the card game. Now this is one of my favorite games ever. It is a campaign-based game where you play as investigators going from scenario to scenario, upgrading your deck using XP points that you gather, but you're ultimately trying to complete a mission, and in your way from these missions are going to be these monsters as well as these cards coming from this Mythos deck that are going to be doing their best to stop you in your tracks. So I love the system in this game where you kind of pick and choose what you're going to be doing. You pick the strategy from the start of the game, you see how it plays out over the course of the campaign, but the fear factor in this game is wonderful. So the story of this is great. You have this creepy thing that's going to be happening throughout the game, and I love how the monsters and the events are all tailored to the specific scenarios. They do such a great job with this atmosphere it's created. Now the reason it's so low on this list is because it is that campaign mode. You're going to have to pick an investigator, and then that investigator is going to carry you from game to game, and the shortest missions you can do for this campaign, for like the best experience, is a 4-mission campaign using the Dream Eater scenario. But I do think that this one is, if you're willing to go back to it over and over again, this is a amazing experience, but may not be the best one for a single game for like a Halloween night or something like that. Now if you are going to do a single scenario, I do recommend the Arkham Horror scenario. I think it is so funny, but you need to have played the game for a little bit, as that scenario itself won't come with enough cards to actually make those decks viable, and it'll be a need to be a game that you're very, familiar with. That way you can get started with it. But that's my number 10. Incredible game, and if it's something you're willing to go into, then this is a fantastic experience. That's Arkham Horror, the card game, my number 10. My number 9 goes to the game Horrified. In Horrified, you play as someone trying to stop these terrors from roaming around your city. So you're in this town here, and this town is filled with monsters, and each of these monsters is going to be roaming around the board, and it's up to you and the rest of your team to gather items and take them to their appropriate spots to thwart each monster. And that's my favorite thing about this game, is the different monsters. So each monster comes with its own unique victory and defeat condition, and the way that it behaves and interacts on the board. So for example, you've got the mummy up here. He's going to be going around and he's going to make somebody like his love, and he's going to go after you and chase you. But to defeat him, you have to do this slide puzzle where you're going to be spending items to move it a certain amount of times. So it's kind of interesting. Each character does something different. And then Frankenstein and Frankenstein's bride, their whole goal is they're trying to meet up with each other. And I think that's really interesting. So they're each trying to do something unique to themselves. So your job is to make sure that you can thwart each of them individually. And it's got a really cool difficulty curve here, where to make it more difficult, you just simply add more monsters to the game. So if you find it too easy, you can play with all of them if you're really feeling it. So I really like this system here. I think it's great. It's very campy and very pulpy, and I love the different monsters that exist in the world and just the way they interact with each other. They do a great job capturing the theme. Fantastic. That's my number 9, Horrified. My number 8 is going to go to the game Growl. Now, Growl is a social deduction game that is based off of a card passing system. So this has you playing as one of two teams. You're either a werewolf or you're a human. But here's the thing, you can become a werewolf as the game plays, and that's what all the werewolves are trying to do, try to make everybody a werewolf. So it's a very weird game where the humans win if there is at least one human left. The werewolves win if everybody's a werewolf. So it's kind of weird where it's like, okay, everybody can win. Now this game features this really fun expansion, and my favorite part is actually playing with the expansion. I wouldn't play it without. It's called the Undead expansion, and the way it works is in the game we're passing cards, and you're going to be passing some bites and you're going to be passing wounds. If you get too many wounds though, you will die. But with the Undead expansion, what happens is the undead are their own faction, and so their own teams. So now you have 3 different people or 3 different groups that are vying to win, and it is so fun to see the interesting choices that can lead to that. You may be werewolf all the way, and then all of a sudden you die, and it's just such a flip of the switch. I love that feeling of that pivoting, of you're instantly being able to change what you're feeling. It cracks me up. So this game it's generated so many laughs. It's definitely a super light game, but it's really fun. I think it's a great style for social deduction, and it's one that I enjoy playing, especially around Halloween time. So that's my number 8, Growl. It cracks me up. So that's number 8. Number 7 goes to the game Obscurio. Now Obscurio has you playing as a hidden role game. What you're going to have to do is you're going to be given clues by a book, and it's their job in order to give you clues using these large cards to guide you to the right door. Now one of the hidden roles is going to be a traitor, and their whole goal is to make everyone confused as to what path to go down. They're going to get some options in order to add cards to the possible doors based on whatever the clue that the book gives. So it's up to them to kind of interpret that and then choose what they see fit that's going to mess around with the other players. So it's a very fascinating game, as the book itself has a lot of power with the clue giving. Because of that traitor, they're able to really put some wrenches into people's plans. So I really like this system. It makes a lot of sense. It also gets to a point where if the trader's doing too well, there comes to a vote phase. And you see this little tracker up here. Once it's empty on one side, you go to the vote phase, and then you'll actually vote on who you think that the trader is, and they become revealed. And so that can be a very tense process, because each time that you're wrong, you lose more of these tokens, and once all those tokens are gone, the players lose. It's very interesting, as you know, you're actually going to get to find out who the traitor is, and I really like that. And the game itself also has these fun trap tokens that you'll pull that make each round a little bit different from this bag here, and they can do things like putting these red overlays onto the pictures so that you cannot see color. It is such a clever system, and it's one that's a lot of fun to play. The atmosphere is great. This magician and this, he's controlling all of this magic in here. It's great for Halloween. Fantastic game. Great hidden traitor game. That's number 7, Obscurio. My number 6 goes to the game Cthulhu Death May Die, an adventure in a box, a scenario-based game where you're going to take a giant old one and you're going to combine it with a scenario. You'll mix all the cards together for both, and that creates your unique mythos deck that's going to be something that you're fighting against. And it's so neat because you're going to be taking investigators, and unlike Arkham Horror, this is condensed into a single experience. So it makes a great one-shot, a great Halloween night style game where you're getting in there, you're getting out. But oh my gosh, this game is fantastic. Now in Arkham Horror, you're more focused on story, and this one you're focused on just smashing bad guys. So smashing creatures going around. So you'll take your investigator, you'll go crazy and level up things. You have a madness card that's going to be affecting you that you can use to your benefit or to your detriment, and then your goal ultimately is to beat that scenario goal and take down whatever boss you're fighting. Each one plays extremely differently, and I love the progression in this game, how you're leveling up as you play. The more insane you go, the stronger you get, the more abilities, the more dice you're rolling, the more damage you're dealing, and the stronger as a character you feel. It's such a fascinating game, such a fun one, and I love the way that this makes you feel. My favorite part of this game has to be the level up system. Every time you get that madness, you have this madness track that's also like a secondary health bar. If you go too insane, you're dead, so you got to be really careful, and you got to kind of teeter on that verge of, do I go crazy and make sure that I'm the strongest person in the room, or will I die? So you have this awesome choice here with that, and I love kind of the figuring out the timing for your madness to react. So I really like this one. That is Cthulhu Death May Die, a fantastic scenario-based game, and that's my number 6. My number 5 is going to go to the game Mysterium. The Mysterium is kind of the partner here to Obscurio. It came out first, but it's one that I still find rings very true and so solid, particularly during this Halloween month. So Mysterium has you playing cooperatively, where you have one person who is a ghost, and they're trying to guide you to whoever their murderer was. And the way that you're doing this is through clue cards. You have this large setup that's going to be in front of you with lots of different levels, and each level is going to have a person. It's going to have a location, and it's also going to have a weapon. If you're playing the expansion, you can change the weapon for a motive, which is also really cool. You can change it up a little bit. Now, with this, you're going to be moving forward, and the ghost is going to be giving you clues using these vision cards. And these visions are these nonsensical, very abstract, giant cards, and it's up to you and the other players to interpret what that ghost means with that vision card. Now, the reason I really like this game is because of the cooperative aspect. Everybody is constantly playing. You're able to communicate with yourselves, but you're also able to do the best you can and give give that answer, and you feel really good when you get it, or you feel like you can really rely on your team when you're having trouble. You can ask for help. This is something where you have the ultimate decision, but you are able to ask for help, and I think it's really good in a cooperative game. Now, there are many versions of this game. There's another one that's called Mysterium Park, and I think that this is another great alternative to the game. It's a faster setup, it's a smaller package, but I don't think it's quite as good as the original Mysterium because of that fact of everyone is not playing at all times. So in Mysterium Park, you, instead of having everything splayed out at once like in Mysterium Park here, you're going to have only a set of 9 images at a time. And once you find your image, you're out, and you can help other players, but I like that feeling of I'm always doing something and I'm always looking for something. And when multiple people are playing and doing different levels, then the ghost, whoever's playing, is giving a hand of clue cards. They have 6 cards. They're going to be giving some to some players that are further along and some to the players in the back where they're trying to help out. And so they have that cool choice of, oh, I have this really good card for this person who's almost done, but I really need to focus on these people back here. So you have to make that choice as to what's going to be the most helpful and what you need. So I really like that. I love the choices, and that's why the standard regular Mysterium here is my number 5. Now my number 4 is going to go to the game Don't Mess with Cthulhu. It's another Cthulhu-themed game, but it's a wonderful, small social deduction game that is perfect for the Halloween setting. Now the way the game works is very simple. You're going to be either an investigator or you're going to be a cultist, and it's your job as an investigator to reveal these elder sign tokens. If you're the cultists, you're trying to not reveal those and eventually reveal this Cthulhu symbol. If you reveal the Cthulhu, you win immediately. But the goal is to give confusion and to do your best in order to make it so that, you know, those good guys do not win. They don't reveal the symbols. So you're either it's a race against time or it's a race to get that Cthulhu token. Now the way the game is played is you're at the start of each round, each player gets to see all their cards, and then they shuffle them up and put them in front of them, and then they get to say what they have in front of them. So it's up to the players to, you know, decide right then and there, do I believe this person? Is that person going to have the cards that I need? And then you use this flashlight token in order to assign what you think they're talking about. Now, I haven't done it, but you could definitely use maybe a real flashlight, and I think that could be a lot of fun. But this in particular does a great job of making it so that you have some information to base your lies off of, and I think that's what a lot of social deduction games need. That way it's not just guessing and saying, oh, I think this person's a liar. It's you have actual factual evidence to lead you towards ways, but this game does it in a way where it's also confusing for all players and the player themselves because they may be putting themselves in a bad situation. It's such an interesting game. I think it's done so well, and it plays at low and higher player counts. But my favorite part of this game is there's actually in the deluxe edition, it comes with little expansions that add just a bit of complexity and these special tiles that each player will get that will change the game a small bit. I love that small rules tweak, but I think this core system as a whole is so well done, and I love the fact that the players who are the good and bad guys can really, you know, switch on a dime as how they're reacting based on the information they're getting from others. So I really like this one. That is Don't Mess with Cthulhu, my number 4. My number 3 is going to go to the game Ex Libris. Now, Ex Libris gives me these vibes of Halloween Town, that old Disney Channel original movie, where the entire city is just full of ghouls and ghosts and goblins, and that's what this game is. You're in this city, and it's your job, though, to run the magical library. So as the magical librarian, you're going to be getting all these books, and these books are organized in a specific fashion. It's your job to do your best to have an alphabetically organized bookshelf, and hilariously there's a reference card in the game that tells you alphabetical order, because otherwise you just sit there and you go A, B, C, D, and it's so funny because it just happens all the time where people just run through the alphabet in their head, and it cracks me up. Now, the things that really make this game stand out to me thematically have to be the player pieces themselves. I mean, look at these little tokens. They are hilarious. I love all of the little shapes, and each of these special meeples has their own special function, so I think that's a lot of fun. But the kicker, the best thing here, are the books themselves. So yes, they're in alphabetical order. Yes, they're all crammed, but each book is so unique and so fun. These book titles are so funny. I love reading them. We have things like The Law of Physics Enforcement, The Itchiest Itch Powder, I'ma Let You Amulet. You have just really great titles. They're fun. I find myself stopping and reading these as I play, and it not only has a great competitive mode, but a great solo mode. It's a great puzzle of efficiency and building this, you know, tableau in front of you of books, and it's just a fun. I really like this system, and I hope that this one gets some more love in the future because I think it's a great one. One that I'm really enjoying, that is Ex Libris. And that's my number 3. Now, my number 2 is going to go to the game Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition. Now, right off the bat, Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition here is one of the most thematic Cthulhu experiences you'll be in. It has a great job doing this through the application that it's run by. So in order to play this, you do need to have a computer or tablet or phone that is running the application, but when you do, it sets the mood with music, narration, and then it lets you jump right into the fun. This is one that is one of the easiest games to learn because everything is just so straightforward and simple. Now, with that being said, the game itself, what is it? This is a game of mansion crawling, if you will. What happens is you start in a room, and as you play, you'll be exploring, revealing new tiles, going to new areas, and then hopefully solving whatever mystery or thing that's happening in the mansion itself. So I'm not going to get into any spoilers here, but the big thing here is you'll be having an objective right off the bat, and you'll be exploring and trying to complete that objective. There are so many things that can happen, so many mysteries, so many different things that can occur, and luckily the app here does a great job as replicating as a game master, so it takes care of all of your upkeep, all of your work, and all of the hidden surprises. Now, my favorite part of Mansions of Madness has to be the damage and the madness cards themselves. Every time that you're hit by a monster or take damage for an event or something, then you're going to draw one of these madness cards. And the madness cards, you'll either draw them face down or face up. If they're face down, nothing bad happens. But if they're face up, they'll do something, and then they'll either flip down or discard themselves. It could be a scratch, and you just discard it. It could be nothing, and you just discard it. It could be a broken leg, and all of a sudden your movement is cut in half. Or all of a sudden you have a broken arm. You have to drop all the items you're carrying. It is so cool. And then the other cool things are the madness cards, because you can only imagine how those affect the players. It's so cool. It's so interesting. I think it's so well done. It's just one little thematic thing that's piled onto this already hugely thematic game. I'm so impressed by this one still because of the thematics that it pulls off. Now, I'll be honest, it's not my favorite game in the world, but for this experience and for a Halloween night, this is a perfect choice. This is such a cool experience, one that anybody can enjoy and anybody can play, and it's cooperative, so you're all working together to do this thing, and you could really customize this game as you see fit. All the expansions do a great job with plugging and playing. When you use the app, you'll just choose all the stuff that's in your library, and then you'll randomly get those things generated. So your game, even though you're playing maybe the same scenario, will be different from game to game, and I really like that, especially in these scenario-driven games. So that's my number 2, Mansions of Madness. Now, my number 1 is going to go to the game Nemesis. Now, Nemesis is a wonderful, terrifying experience that does horror the best I've seen in a game. This is peak scary movie to me. This is peak thematic to me. This is just a wonderful experience as you are playing as crew members of the Nemesis. You'd be going from room to room, checking out things, trying to make as little noise as possible, because lurking in the shadows are the intruders, the aliens, these giant creatures that are out to kill you. They are here, they are intruders, they are here and out for blood. So your whole goal in this game is to complete your objective. It is semi-cooperative, and it does it in the best way that I've seen, where you know that it's up to you to do your mission, and as you play, you'll notice that you have 2 specific missions to pick from. One is a more selfish mission, one is a more cooperative mission, so it's up to you how you decide how you want to play the game. Now, that being said, you'll pick your mission once the first intruder shows up, and it's your job to work together to do your best to get out. Now, my favorite part of this game is the thematics. I love the different asymmetry between the characters. I love that the scientist is good at science, whatever that means. I love that the engineer is going to be good at fixing things. I love that the pilot is going to be good at steering and controlling the different pieces here. I love that the soldier is obviously going to be better at fighting than others. And I love that you have all these characters with their own way to do things. And I think it makes a great job. I also really enjoy the different intruders that you can play with. There are many different expansions for this game that all have a different flavor and feel of creatures. Are you going to be playing against the creatures that mess with your brains in the form of the Void Seeders? Are you playing with this horrific body mutation horror of the Carnimorphs? Or are you playing with the terrifying, Ridley Scott's Alien franchise intruders from the base game? All of these are viable options, and they make for a wonderfully thematic experience. Now, this game does a great job with its horror setting, because everything you do has serious consequences and lasting consequences, which makes every decision you make that more tense and that more scary. I think it does a great job packaging this entire horror experience into a single session, and it does so in a way that you're going to want to come back and play it. It's a fantastic experience. experience of exploration, fear, and unlikely cooperation, but it is one that I really, really enjoy, and it's one that I just can't wait to play more. So that is my number one, Nemesis, the board game. And those are my top 10 Halloween board games. They're ones that I really enjoy, ones that I think are perfect for this holiday, and things that you could bust out on Halloween night in order to have a great time while you're waiting for people to come and pass out candy, or if you are turning the lights off at home and just enjoying the night yourself. So lots of cool things here that you can do. Great times to be had, and I hope that some of these games are ones that you really enjoy. If you have any suggestions for wonderful Halloween board games, I'd love to hear them in the comments below, and I'd love to hear your opinions and thoughts on the ones that I talked about here. Thank you so much for watching SideGame Strong.